It's the second week of August. You walk out the back door with your coffee, same as every morning, and you stop on the step and just look at it. That raised bed, the one you built back in April. Cut the boards yourself, screwed the corners square, set it right there in the yard where you could see it from the kitchen window. You filled it, you planted it, you stood back that first week in May and felt proud of it, the way a man feels proud of a thing he made with his own 2 hands. And now it's August, and half of it is bare dirt. The tomatoes are leggy and pale, reaching up like they're trying to get away from something. The lettuce bolted and went bitter weeks ago. The peppers set 2 little fruits and then just quit. You water it every evening. You did everything the picture on the internet told you to do, and you're standing there with the mug going cold in your hand, wondering what on earth you did wrong, because your neighbor built the exact same box, the very same spring, and his is spilling over the sides. There's no luck in this. There never was. A raised bed doesn't thrive because a man got blessed with a green thumb, and it doesn't fail because he got cursed with a brown one. The Lord built an order into this ground, right down into the dirt itself, and that order never changed. We're the ones who stopped paying attention to it. And here's the thing that ought to comfort you. There was a time nearly everybody knew this. Your grandmother didn't build a raised bed off a picture she saw on a screen. She learned it standing next to somebody older than her, in the dirt, doing it wrong a few times until she did it right. That knowledge wasn't clever. It wasn't secret. It was common as rain. It didn't die because it stopped working. It died because we stopped handing it down, and we started buying our answers off a shelf instead. I'm Pastor Robin. I've kept a garden most of my life. I learned it the way most good things get learned, from people older than me who never wrote a word of it down, and from a grandmother who could make anything grow in a coffee can on a windowsill. I'll tell you what I'm not. I'm not an expert with letters after my name. The first job God ever handed a human being wasn't to preach a sermon. It was to tend a garden. I've never forgotten that, and I never will. Now, the garden store is happy to sell you the fix. They'll sell you a bag of raised bed soil for $14, and a bottle of bloom booster for 20 more, and a fresh flat of seedlings when the first ones fail. And none of it touches the real problem. Because the real problem was decided the day you filled that box, before you ever dropped a seed in. Today I'm going to walk you through the 11 mistakes that quietly ruin a beginner's raised bed. Not the fancy stuff, the plain stuff. And I'm going to tell you the fix for each one, and, more important, why it works. So you're not just following me, you understand it, and you can teach it to somebody else. Most folks get one of these backwards, and it's the one that matters most. It's near the end, and it's the difference between a bed that feeds you and a bed that just sits there looking tired. Stay with me for that one. Come on out to the garden with me. Breathe. God is here. Let's get our hands dirty. Before we count them off, let me tell you why this matters. And it's not really about tomatoes. A raised bed is supposed to be the easiest garden a person can keep. It's up off your knees, the soil's loose, the weeds are fewer. For a lot of you, that bed is how you feed yourself now that the big garden got to be too much. So when it fails, it isn't a hobby that fizzled. It's grocery money that went in the ground and didn't come back up. It's a summer of watering and hoping, and nothing on the plate to show for it. God gave us this ground to feed a family. And somewhere along the way, we handed that job over to a store and forgot the little we needed to know. So let's take it back, one mistake at a time. The first mistake is the one you make before a single plant goes in. You build the bed too wide. It looks generous, a big 4x8 box, maybe 5 feet across. But here's what happens. You can't reach the middle. So to weed it, to plant it, to pick from it, you step in. You put your boot right down on the soil you worked so hard to keep loose. And the whole point of a raised bed, the loose, breathing, unstomped soil that lets roots run and water drain. You just crushed it, right there in the center, every single time you climbed in. Compacted soil is the enemy of everything we're about to fix. The remedy is simple. Keep your bed no wider than 4 feet if you can walk both sides, and no wider than about 2.5 to 3 feet if it's against a wall or a fence, and you can only reach from one side, 4 feet, because the average grown person can reach a bit under 2 feet in comfortably, 2 hands, 2 sides, and you never once have to set foot in the bed. Make the bed as long as you want. Length costs you nothing. Width is where beginners go wrong. The second mistake is what you put in the box. And this is the one that breaks the most hearts, because you can do everything else right and still lose here. You go to the store, you buy the cheapest bags that say topsoil on the front, and you dump them in. Or worse, you shovel in the heavy clay dirt from your own yard because it was free. And then you wonder why the water sits on top like a puddle and the roots never take off. Cheap bagged topsoil is often just screened dirt, dense and dead. Native clay packs down hard as a road. Neither one breathes. Here's the fix, and it's the oldest good advice there is. A raised bed doesn't want dirt. It wants a mix. Roughly a third good compost for the food and the life in it, a third topsoil or coco coir or peat for the body, and a third something coarse for air. Coarse sand, or better, a bagged material called perlite, those little white pebbles. Some of the old raised bed hands call a version of that a square foot mix, equal parts compost, peat, and vermiculite. The exact recipe matters less than the idea. You want it dark, crumbly, and light enough that water soaks straight down, and air can get to the roots. Squeeze a handful. If it holds together in a hard wet lump, it's too heavy. If it falls apart soft and damp like a good chocolate cake, you've got it right. The third mistake is that the box is too shallow. A lot of the pretty beds you see online are only 5-6 inches deep. They look tidy, and they starve your roots. Most vegetables want to send roots down 10 to 12 inches at least, and a tomato or a pepper or a squash would happily go 18 if you let them. Give a root 6 inches and a hot August, and that bed dries out by noon every day, and the plant lives its whole life thirsty and stunted. The fix? Build deep or don't bother. Aim for at least 10 to 12 inches of good soil for most crops, and 12 to 18 if you're growing anything that fruits heavy. If your bed's already built shallow and it's sitting on open ground, don't tear it out. Just loosen the native soil underneath it with a fork before you fill, so the roots can dive down past the boards into the earth below. Depth is life down there where you can't see it. The fourth mistake is drainage, or the lack of it. Now this connects straight to the last one, so stay with me. A raised bed only works because water drains through it and away. But I've watched folks set a beautiful bed right on top of a concrete patio, or a hard-packed gravel pad, or line the whole bottom with plastic sheet to keep the weeds out. And then the water fills the box from the bottom up like a bathtub, and the roots sit in it, and they rot. A plant can go a long time thirsty. It cannot survive its feet standing in water. The fix: set your bed on open soil whenever you can, so the water has somewhere to go. If you must put it on a hard surface, a patio or a balcony, then you have to give it a way out. Drill drainage holes, raise it on feet, put a real drainage layer at the bottom. And whatever you do, don't line the bottom with solid plastic. If you want to slow the weeds coming up, use cardboard or a permeable landscape fabric that water passes through, not a sheet that traps it. The fifth mistake is one I made myself, more than once, and I'll be honest with you about it. You plant too close. Those seedlings are so small in May. 2 little tomato plants in 6-inch pots look lonely with a foot between them, so you tuck them in 8 inches apart. And you squeeze a row of lettuce in the gap, because why waste the space? And it looks wonderful. For about 3 weeks. Then July comes, and it's a jungle. Nothing gets air. Nothing gets light down low. The leaves stay damp, and the mildew moves in, and the plants fight each other for every drop of water and every crumb of food. And they all lose. Crowding is how disease starts and how yields die. The fix is to read the back of the seed packet and then actually believe it. If it says 18 inches for a tomato, give it 18 inches. Plant for the plant it's going to be in August, not the little thing it is in May. An empty-looking bed in spring is a full plate in fall. A crowded bed in spring is heartbreak. The sixth mistake happens before you build at all, and there's no fixing it once it's done. You put the bed in the wrong place. In the shade. I understand why. The shady corner is where there's room. It's near the hose. It's out of the wind. But almost every vegetable worth growing, your tomatoes, peppers, beans, squash, cucumbers, needs a solid 6 to 8 hours of direct sun a day to make fruit. Give it 3 or 4 hours dappled through a tree, and the plant will live. It'll be green, and it will barely feed you. It's spending all its energy just reaching for light it can't get. So before you sink a single screw, go out and watch the spot. Watch it in the morning, watch it at noon, watch it at 3. Count the hours the sun actually lands there. Put your bed where the light is, even if it's less convenient. Even if you have to drag the hose a little farther. Leafy greens and herbs will forgive some shade. Anything that fruits will not. The seventh mistake is that you leave the soil bare. You get the bed planted, the little plants are in, the dirt is dark and tidy between them, and you leave it just like that. open to the sky, and that bare soil bakes. The sun cracks the top, the water evaporates almost as fast as you pour it. Weed seeds blow in and find open ground to sprout. And every time you water, the drops hit bare dirt and splash soil up onto the lower leaves. And that splash carries disease right up onto the plant. The fix costs almost nothing. Mulch. Lay down 2 or 3 inches of straw, shredded leaves, grass clippings dried out, or wood chips, all over the open soil, right up close to the stems, but not touching them. That blanket holds the moisture in so you water half as often. It smothers the weeds before they start. It keeps the soil cool and even, and it stops that dirty splash. A mulched bed and a bare bed, planted the same day. By August, they don't even look like the same garden. The 8th mistake is how you water. And nearly everybody gets this one backwards. You come out in the evening, you give every plant a little sprinkle, a quick shower over the leaves, and you feel like you took care of it. You did the opposite. A light daily sprinkle only wets the top inch. And the roots, being no fools, come up to that top inch to find the water, which leaves them shallow and weak, and the first hot day you miss, they wilt hard. Shallow, frequent watering trains a lazy root. The fix is to water deep and less often. 2 or 3 times a week. Give it a long, slow soak that wets the soil down 6, 8 inches deep. That pulls the roots down to go looking for it. And deep roots are what carry a plant through a heat wave when you're not there. And water the soil, not the leaves. Wet leaves overnight are an invitation to fungus. Put the water where the roots are, down low, in the morning if you can. And here's a good honest test. Stick your finger 2 knuckles into the dirt before you ever turn on the hose. If it's damp down there, you don't need to water at all. More raised beds are drowned than dried. The 9th mistake is that you feed it once and think you're done forever. You built it with that beautiful compost mix, and it was rich as could be that first spring. But a bed full of hungry plants eats. All season long, every tomato and every head of lettuce is pulling the goodness up out of that soil and carrying it off to your kitchen. By the 2nd year, if you never put anything back, you're growing tired. Spent dirt and wondering why the harvest keeps shrinking. Soil isn't a thing you fill once. It's a thing you feed. The fix is a rhythm. Every spring, before you plant, top the bed off with a good 2 or 3 inches of fresh compost and work it into the top. Through the season, a gentle feed now and then, compost tea, worm castings, an organic granular fertilizer used at the rate on the bag, never more. Feed the soil, and the soil feeds the plant. You're not running a bank you can only withdraw from. You've got to make deposits too. The 10th mistake is one a lot of folks never even think about. What your bed is made of, and what it's leaching into your food. Now I want to be careful and honest here, because there's a lot of fear-mongering online about this, and I won't add to it. But here's the plain truth. Most untreated wood is perfectly fine. Cedar and redwood last for years and cost more. Plain pine or fir is cheap and safe and just rots quicker. Where you want to slow down and think is the old stuff. Truly old pressure-treated lumber, the kind from decades back, used arsenic compounds, and you don't want that around food crops. Railroad ties are soaked in creosote, and old painted or salvaged boards can carry lead paint. Modern pressure-treated wood sold today is treated differently and is generally considered safe for garden beds. But if it worries you, the simplest answer costs a few dollars. Line the inside walls of the bed with heavy plastic sheeting, stapled up the sides but never across the bottom, so the soil never touches the wood, and the water still drains straight down. Use plain, untreated, or naturally rot-resistant wood, or a food-safe metal or stone, and you never have to think about it again. And the 11th mistake. This is the one I told you to wait for, the one that matters most, and it's the one almost every beginner misses, because it doesn't hurt you the first year. It only shows up later, and by then you don't connect it to the cause. You plant the same thing in the same spot, year after year. The tomatoes go where the tomatoes always go. And that little patch of soil, it's like a table where you only ever serve one meal. The same pests that love tomatoes move into that ground, and settle in, and multiply over the winter, and the same nutrients that tomatoes crave get stripped out, and never replaced, and every year that bed gets a little more diseased and a little more depleted, and you blame the weather. The fix is as old as farming itself. Rotate. Move your crops around the bed, or between beds, so the same family of plant doesn't land in the same soil 2 years running. Leaf crops, then root crops, then the fruiting crops, then the beans and peas that put goodness back, and around again. Give the soil a rest from the same demand, and you break the pests home and let the ground recover. The old farmers rotated their fields for a reason. They watched what happened when they didn't. Now let me set the tools down for just a moment, because there's a line I think about every time I fill a new bed, and it comes from the Gospel of Luke. Jesus is describing two men who each build a house, and of the wise one he says this: "He is like a man building a house, who dug down deep and laid the foundation on rock. When the flood came, the torrent struck that house but could not shake it, because it was well built." Dug down deep, laid the foundation on rock. The man you never see working, the one down in the dirt, before there's a single wall to admire, getting the foundation right. That's the man whose house still stands when the storm comes. And a raised bed is just that, my friend. The soil is the foundation. Everybody wants to talk about the tomatoes, the flowers, the harvest up top where you can see it. But the wise gardener does his real work down low, in the mix, in the depth, in the drainage, where nobody's watching and nobody claps. Get the foundation wrong, and the whole bed fails when the heat comes. Get it right, and it holds. So let's put it all together, quick, so you can write it down. Don't build the bed too wide. 4 feet if you reach both sides, less against a wall, so you never step in and crush your soil. Fill it with a real mix, not cheap topsoil and not yard clay. Compost, body, and something coarse for air. Build it deep, 10 to 12 inches at least. Give it drainage, open ground below, never a solid plastic bottom. Don't crowd your plants. Space them for August, not May. Put it in the sun, 6 to 8 hours, and watch the spot before you build. Mulch the bare soil, 2 or 3 inches. Water deep and less often, on the soil, not the leaves, and check with your finger first. Feed the soil every season with fresh compost. Use safe, untreated wood, or line the walls. And rotate your crops, so the same plant never sits in the same spot 2 years running. 11 mistakes, every one of them fixable, most of them free. If your mother or your grandmother had her own way of doing this, a trick for the soil, a rhythm for the watering, something her people did that you've never seen written anywhere, put it down below. That old knowledge gets lost when nobody writes it down, and I read every single one. And tell me this while you're there. What's the one mistake you made in your first raised bed that you'd warn a new gardener about today? Next time I'll show you the natural feeds that bring a struggling, yellow-leaved plant back from the edge. The old fertilizers that really work when a plant's given up. It's the natural next step after today. Because once your foundation's right, keeping the plant fed is the rest of the story. So remember, as you go back out to that bed, you didn't teach that seed how to become a tomato. You didn't write the instruction into it that tells a root to dig down and a vine to climb toward the light. Somebody older and wiser than all of us laid that foundation down a long, long time ago, deep in the design of things, on rock that doesn't move. We just dig deep enough to meet it. God grows it. We just tend it. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May He lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace. Tend your patch, trust the one who made the seed, and I'll see you back in the garden next time.